For decades, the world believed it already understood the story of Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson. To the public, it looked like a glamorous Hollywood romance that slowly unraveled beneath the pressure of fame. There was the fairy tale wedding, the wildly successful reality show, the endless tabloid headlines, and finally the heartbreaking divorce that dominated entertainment news throughout the mid-2000s. But 2 decades later, the story feels far more layered than the public once realized. What if their marriage was never destroyed by one dramatic betrayal? What if the real tragedy was much quieter? 2 young people evolving in completely different directions while millions of strangers watched every step. That possibility changes everything. At the end of the 1990s, Nick and Jessica represented 2 different stages of celebrity life. Nick had already achieved major success as a member of the hugely popular boy band 98 Degrees. He understood interviews, touring schedules, screaming fans, and the exhausting rhythm of constant public attention. Fame no longer surprised him. In many ways, he had learned how to survive inside it. Jessica, however, was only beginning her journey. Raised in Texas with a strong Christian upbringing and enormous musical talent, she entered the entertainment industry with a voice powerful enough to compete with the biggest pop stars of the era. Yet beneath the confidence on stage was a young woman still trying to understand herself. She was only 18 years old when she met Nick in 1999. Can anyone truly prepare for adulthood while simultaneously becoming famous? At first, their relationship felt genuine and refreshing in a celebrity culture already filled with scandals and superficial romances. Nick appeared calm, steady, and protective. Jessica seemed warm, innocent, emotional, and deeply in love. Fans quickly became obsessed with them because they felt approachable despite their fame. They laughed together naturally. Their chemistry seemed effortless. Unlike many celebrity couples who looked carefully manufactured by publicists, Nick and Jessica appeared real. And perhaps that authenticity became both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. By 2002, they married in a lavish ceremony surrounded by cameras, reporters, family members, and enormous public fascination. To millions watching from afar, it looked like the beginning of a lifelong love story. Jessica later admitted Nick was her first true love and first serious relationship. Looking back now, many people wonder whether that fact alone carried enormous emotional consequences. How can someone fully understand commitment when they are still discovering their own identity? At the time of their wedding, Nick actually held greater financial stability. His music career had already matured, while Jessica was still building momentum. Because of that, Jessica reportedly rejected the idea of signing a prenuptial agreement. To her, marriage meant permanence. Asking for legal protection felt unromantic and unnecessary. Forever, after all, was supposed to mean forever. But life often changes faster than emotions can adapt. Then came the television show that transformed them from celebrities into cultural icons. In 2003, Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica premiered on MTV. Originally, the concept seemed simple. Follow a young married couple navigating everyday life while balancing music careers. Producers likely expected moderate ratings and temporary curiosity. Instead, the series exploded into one of the biggest reality television phenomena of the decade. Suddenly, audiences weren't just listening to Nick and Jessica's music, they were sitting inside their home every week. Viewers watched them decorate houses, argue over small frustrations, tease each other, struggle with schedules, and attempt to balance marriage with fame. The show created a feeling of intimacy rarely seen in celebrity culture at the time. People felt like they truly knew them. Then one unforgettable scene changed Jessica's public image forever. The now legendary chicken of the sea moment, where Jessica confused tuna with chicken, became endlessly replayed across television, magazines, and comedy shows. Overnight, she became the target of jokes across America. The media quickly labeled her the stereotypical dumb blonde, and the narrative followed her for years. But much later, Jessica revealed something deeply painful. According to her, the exaggerated innocence audiences saw on screen was partially intentional. She often leaned into the naive persona because she wanted Nick to look intelligent, patient, and dependable by comparison. In many ways, she sacrificed her own public image to strengthen the image of their relationship. Think about how emotionally complicated that becomes over time. How many people slowly reshape themselves in relationships just to preserve harmony? How many people perform versions of themselves because they fear losing the person they love? At first, the strategy worked brilliantly. Audiences adored them. Ratings soared. Their names became unavoidable in pop culture conversations. But behind the laughter and fame, emotional cracks were quietly forming. Ironically, the reality show transformed Jessica into a much larger star than almost anyone expected. Her music sales skyrocketed. Movie opportunities arrived. Endorsement deals poured in. Magazine covers multiplied. She became one of the most recognizable women in America seemingly overnight. Nick remained successful, but the balance inside the relationship had shifted dramatically. And sometimes, success changes relationships in ways people cannot predict. As Jessica's fame expanded, her schedule became increasingly chaotic. Tours, interviews, recordings, film projects, business opportunities. Her life moved at incredible speed. Nick, meanwhile, appeared increasingly uncertain about his own professional direction outside the boy band era. Viewers slowly began noticing tension during later seasons of Newlyweds. Small disagreements felt heavier. Conversations carried frustration beneath the humor. Moments that once appeared playful started feeling uncomfortable. Even fans who loved them sensed something changing. Producers later admitted much of the emotional strain seen on camera was very real. And here lies the deeper tragedy few marriages could survive. They no longer possessed privacy. Every disagreement existed near microphones. Every emotional conversation unfolded around producers and filming schedules. Every vulnerable moment carried the possibility of becoming entertainment for millions of viewers. Can a marriage survive when there is never a safe place to fall apart privately? Most struggling couples close their doors and attempt to heal away from public judgment. Nick and Jessica never had that luxury. Even silence became analyzed. Every facial expression generated speculation online and in tabloids. By the third season, emotional exhaustion seemed impossible to hide. Then came another layer of controversy. While filming The Dukes of Hazzard, Jessica developed a close connection with co-star Johnny Knoxville. Rumors spread quickly throughout Hollywood and the media. Years later, Jessica admitted there had been an emotional bond between them, though she insisted something important. Her marriage had already been deteriorating long before that connection developed. That distinction matters more than many people realize. Affairs, emotional or physical, are often not the original cause of collapse. Sometimes they emerge after loneliness has already settled deeply inside a relationship. Sometimes they reveal emotional needs that have gone ignored for years. Could Nick and Jessica have saved their marriage if cameras had disappeared earlier? Or had they already become strangers beneath the surface long before the public noticed? In March 2005, Newlyweds officially ended. To viewers, it felt like the closing chapter of a hugely successful television era. But behind the scenes, the ending carried much heavier emotional weight. Just months later, Jessica filed for divorce. Nick later admitted the decision shocked him. According to several reports, the conversation happened quietly after dinner. There was no massive public explosion. No dramatic screaming match. Just a painful realization that the marriage could no longer continue. And perhaps that quiet ending makes the story even sadder. Because many relationships do not end with hatred. Sometimes they end with exhaustion. Sometimes two people simply wake up one day and realize the love they once protected so fiercely can no longer survive the lives they have become. Then came another stunning twist involving money. Remember the missing prenuptial agreement? By the time the marriage collapsed, Jessica's financial success had exploded far beyond Nick's. Her career, endorsements, and expanding business ventures had made her enormously wealthy. Because California operates under community property laws, the absence of a prenup reportedly created an extremely expensive settlement. Jessica later described rejecting a prenup as the biggest financial mistake of her life. Reports surrounding the exact settlement varied widely, but Nick reportedly walked away with millions in assets and property. Yet despite the enormous public scrutiny surrounding the divorce, something surprising happened. There was no vicious public war. No humiliating interviews attacking one another. No endless public accusations. No dramatic attempts to destroy each other's reputations. Instead, both carried their pain differently. Nick responded through music. His 2006 album What's Left of Me became an emotional reflection on heartbreak, confusion, and loss. The title track resonated deeply with listeners because it felt authentic rather than calculated. Audiences could hear genuine pain beneath the lyrics. And maybe that authenticity explains why people remained fascinated by their story for so many years. It never felt completely artificial. It felt human. After the divorce, Nick and Jessica essentially disappeared from each other's lives. There were no dramatic reunions, no public friendship, and no ongoing feuds. Just silence. Years passed without meaningful interaction. Each moved forward separately. Nick eventually found stability again with Vanessa Lachey, whom he married in 2011. Together they built a quieter and seemingly grounded family life with 3 children. Over time, Nick reinvented himself professionally through television hosting, eventually becoming widely recognized by younger audiences through Netflix's Love is Blind. Interestingly, many viewers discovered an older, calmer, and more emotionally mature version of Nick through that show. The young husband, once trapped inside reality television chaos, had evolved into someone more measured and thoughtful. Jessica's post-divorce journey unfolded very differently. She married former NFL player Eric Johnson and transformed herself into a remarkably successful entrepreneur. The Jessica Simpson collection eventually became one of the most profitable celebrity fashion brands in the United States, reportedly generating more than $1 billion annually at its peak. Yet financial success was only part of her transformation. Emotionally, Jessica appeared determined to reclaim her own voice after years of public misunderstanding. In her best-selling memoir Open Book, she revealed painful truths about insecurity, addiction struggles, fame, loneliness, and the emotional complexity of growing up under constant public observation. And perhaps that memoir changed public perception more than anything else. Readers no longer saw the simplistic, dumb blonde caricature created by reality television. Instead, they encountered a woman who entered adulthood, marriage, superstardom, and global scrutiny simultaneously, all before fully understanding herself. That kind of pressure destroys many people. Some never recover from it. Then came the moment nobody expected. In March 2026, 20 years after their divorce, Nick and Jessica reportedly found themselves aboard the same flight traveling from Los Angeles to Hawaii. Imagine the emotional weight of that moment. 6.5 hours inside the same cabin with someone you once loved deeply. Someone who once knew your private fears, your dreams, your insecurities. Someone connected forever to one of the most defining chapters of your life. What would you even say after 20 years? Would silence feel safer? Would old memories suddenly return? Would regret appear? Relief? Bitterness? According to reports, the encounter remained surprisingly calm and respectful. Both traveled with family members. Nick sat beside Vanessa and their children, while Jessica traveled with relatives as well. Initial reactions may have included discomfort or surprise, but eventually everyone settled peacefully into the flight. And honestly, that quiet interaction may reveal more about healing than any dramatic reunion ever could. Because true healing rarely looks cinematic. Real healing is not always about rekindling romance or rewriting history. Sometimes it simply means reaching a point where old pain no longer controls your emotions. It means being able to exist near someone who once broke your heart without reopening old wounds. Maybe that is the final lesson hidden inside the story of Nick and Jessica. Not every love story is meant to last forever. Some relationships exist to shape people rather than complete them. Some marriages teach painful lessons about identity, timing, ambition, sacrifice, and emotional growth. And sometimes 2 people can genuinely love each other while still being completely wrong for the lives they eventually become. That possibility is uncomfortable because it forces people to confront difficult questions about their own relationships. Can love alone truly sustain a marriage? What happens when 2 people evolve at different speeds? How much pressure can any relationship survive before intimacy turns into performance? Perhaps the saddest part of Nick and Jessica's story is not that they divorced. Perhaps the saddest part is that millions watched 2 young people slowly lose themselves while the world treated it as entertainment. And in today's culture, where celebrity breakups often become permanent warfare, that quiet maturity may be the most remarkable ending of all. Jessica Simpson was only 22 years old when her marriage to Nick Lachey began, and that single detail changes the entire way this story should be understood. At 22, most people are still discovering who they are. They are making mistakes quietly, changing opinions privately, and growing through experiences far away from national headlines. But Jessica's journey unfolded under relentless camera lights, surrounded by producers, tabloids, gossip shows, and millions of viewers who watched her every move as entertainment. Could any young relationship truly survive that kind of pressure? Meanwhile, Nick rarely faced the same cruelty. He was often portrayed as the calm, grounded husband, while Jessica became the emotional and misunderstood celebrity wife. Whether fair or not, the public slowly created heroes and villains within a marriage they never truly understood. And perhaps that imbalance became one of the hidden fractures that quietly damaged the relationship over time. At first, audiences loved them. They looked like the perfect young celebrity couple, glamorous, funny, affectionate, and relatable at the same time. Their chemistry felt natural. Their playful arguments felt authentic. Fans believed they were witnessing real love behind Hollywood fame. But beneath the laughter, pressure was quietly growing. Fame has a strange way of freezing people in time. While normal couples evolve privately, celebrities often feel trapped inside public expectations. Nick and Jessica were expected to remain the same charming newlyweds forever, even while they themselves were changing emotionally, professionally, and personally. And that change became impossible to ignore. Jessica's career was expanding rapidly. She was becoming a massive solo celebrity, no longer known only as part of a famous couple. At the same time, Nick faced the difficult challenge of maintaining his own identity while living inside a relationship constantly defined by television and headlines. Was the marriage collapsing because of fame itself? Or were they simply two young people growing into different versions of themselves? Sometimes relationships do not end because love disappears. Sometimes they end because people evolve in directions they never expected. That possibility makes this story feel painfully human. When the divorce finally happened, public reactions revealed how differently society treated them. Nick largely remained respected and relatable. Jessica, however, faced endless speculation and judgment. Every interview, every appearance, and every career decision became another opportunity for criticism. Yet something remarkable happened afterward. Instead of disappearing, Jessica slowly rebuilt herself. And in many ways, that rebuilding became the most important chapter of her life. She began speaking more openly about insecurity, pressure, self-worth, and the emotional toll of constantly being judged. Over time, audiences started seeing not just a celebrity, but a woman who had survived years of scrutiny while trying to understand herself. What if heartbreak sometimes becomes the beginning of self-discovery rather than the end of happiness? That question may explain why this story still resonates so deeply with millions of people even decades later. Today, both Nick and Jessica appear far more grounded than the young celebrities audiences once watched on MTV. Nick seems calmer, wiser, and more reflective about the past. Jessica speaks openly about freedom, healing, personal growth, and finally becoming comfortable in her own skin. Time appears to have softened the pain while also teaching both of them difficult lessons that only experience can provide. And maybe that is the real ending to this story. Not the divorce. Not the reality show. Not the gossip headlines. But survival. Two people entered marriage before fully understanding themselves. Cameras magnified every weakness. Television transformed private struggles into public entertainment. The pressure eventually destroyed the relationship. But it did not destroy them. Perhaps that is why their story continues to connect with so many people around the world. Because beneath the celebrity glamour lies something deeply universal. And maybe that realization is what makes their story unforgettable. So now the question becomes yours. What do you think truly ended the marriage of Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson? Fame, emotional immaturity, pressure from reality television, unequal public treatment, or simply growing apart before they ever truly had the chance to grow up together?